Hey, welcome back to the channel. This is the Petty Politic. I appreciate you showing up. Hello. So today we talking about Jared Kushner and the Albania scandal. You know what's amazing to me? How America keeps pretending corruption only exists when somebody slides cash into a brown paper bag under the table. That's the old corruption method. Modern day corruption, where suits goes to investor meetings, luxury hotels, billion-dollar partnerships. Modern day corruption gets invited onto CNBC. That's the new version. And when people look at Jared Kushner, that's exactly what they see. Exactly what they see.
Moving on, a luxury project linked to U.S. President Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, has sparked protests in Albania's capital. Thousands of people took to the streets of Tirana to protest against the luxury resort project. The project is planned to be built on several hectares of the protected Vjosa-Narta coastal landscape in Vjosa-Narta and on the uninhabited Adriatic island of Sazan. Environmental NGOs have long raised concerns that the project could threaten the area's biodiversity and disrupt bird migration routes. On Monday, protesters chanted, "Albania belongs to Albanians," while holding placards that read, "Hands off Vjosa-Narta."
See, Jared Kushner is not some traditional criminal mastermind. Jared Kushner is not some villain in a movie. We see a politically connected insider who somehow keeps ending up standing directly beside massive international business opportunities tied to governments, foreign money, political influence, and a luxury development project like every year. And the question people keep asking is simple. Would any of this exist if this man wasn't Donald Trump's son-in-law? Because that is the entire story right there. Not one island, not one hotel, not one deal, the entire thing. And now Albania has become the latest explosion in that ecosystem that he surrounds himself in, because thousands of people there believe wealthy foreign elites are trying to turn nationally significant land into a $1 billion Playboy playground while local citizens get pushed aside. And honestly, I understand why they're angry, because when regular people hear billionaires casually talking about discovering islands where families already live and where national history already exists, it starts sounding like less and less of an investment and more of an entitlement. That's the problem, the entitlement, because rich political families have gotten so used to access that they move around the world assuming everything eventually belongs to them. This is a beautiful coastline, investment opportunity, historical landmark, investment opportunity, luxury redevelopment, protected environmental area, resort property. That's how people see this. And the more these stories pile up about Kushner, the harder it becomes for people to dismiss the criticism as coincidence. Now let's slow it down a little bit, because this Albania situation didn't come out of nowhere, okay? This is a part of a much larger pattern involving Jared Kushner. Foreign governments, international money, political access stretching from the Balkans all the way into the Middle East. And when you lay it all out together, the optics become absolutely devastating for this man because the timeline matters. The relationships matter, the money matters, and the pattern matters, right? Now, first, who is Jared Kushner in the eyes of the public? He's not just a businessman. That's important. He is Donald Trump's son-in-law, former senior White House advisor, one of the most influential unelected figures in the first Trump administration, Middle East policy point man. I hate that word. Abraham Accords, foreign negotiations, direct relationships with GOAT leadership. That matters because after leaving government, Kushner didn't go become a math teacher somewhere. He immediately entered global finance and international development at an elite level. That's what raised eyebrows because most people leave government and go find a consulting job or something like that. This man left government, literally incorporating his firm, his company on January 2021, the very day after the Trump administration ended its presidency, and launched Affinity Partners. Within months, Jared Kushner started raising billions and billions of dollars connected directly to foreign sovereign wealthy money. Billions, not millions, billions. And ordinary Americans are sitting there struggling to pay for eggs and gas and shit like that. That's the disconnect that make people pissed off. Now let's go directly into Albania because this story is getting bigger every day. Sazan Island, former military outpost, protected ecological area, national significance, located between the Adriatic and the Ionian Seas. For decades, it remained largely untouched because of its military history and environmental sanctuary. Rare wildlife, protected wetlands, bird migration, marine ecosystems. This was not just some empty, unused land nobody cared about. This mattered to people. This land mattered to people. This island matters to people. Then suddenly on December 30th, 2024, the Albanian government officially declassified the island for civilian use. Really? What the hell is going on? The timing is interesting. Let me play this video. Hold on. Let me move this. Uno momento. Just uno momento. Here we go. All right. Hold on. Move this. But listen to this part right here.
An unbelievable, beautiful 1,400 hectare private island in the middle of the Mediterranean. We were on a friend's boat and we stopped for a swim. Effectively, that's how we found it. We swam to the island. We went on a hike, barefoot all the way up to the top, and we were just captivated.
So apparently they were on some kind of vacation. And it just got discovered. They just discovered it. Her and Jared Kushner discovered it. The Albanian government officially declassified the island for civilian use. Then almost immediately afterward, the Kushner-linked entity called the Atlantic Incubation Partners, LLC, partnering with Kushner's Affinity Partnerships and the ultra-luxurious Amman Resorts, was granted strategic investor status for this island, supposed discovered island that Ivanka is talking about. They locked in priority access to fast-track permits for a staggering $1.4 billion luxury resort proposal. $1.4 billion they got to build a luxury resort on that island. Because this is where ordinary people start to roll their eyes right here. Funny how governments suddenly move quickly when billionaires show up, suddenly all that red tape don't mean jack shit. You can do it now. It doesn't matter. Funny how environmental protections suddenly become flexible for the rich people. In fact, Albania recently altered its laws regarding protected areas to allow exactly this type of high-end construction near this ecological zone. Funny how bureaucracy suddenly disappears. Regular citizens can't get potholes fixed on their street for 6 months, but billionaire political families like the Trumps, the Kushners, whole islands suddenly become available for their use. It's an amazing country, amazing world, and the project itself, massive luxury tourism development. Hotels, villas, high-end resorts, all built around land many of these local people in Albania believe should remain protected. Then Ivanka Trump made the situation dramatically worse with her comments about discovering the island while out boating. Now, maybe to wealthy elite people, that sounds charming. To Albanians, it sounds arrogant as hell. Because imagine somebody showing up to your homeland talking like they just found, I don't know, Wakanda, some shit. Families there got generations and generations of history tied to that coastline, tied to that island. And billionaires arrive on yachts talking about, we discovered this magical private island. Baby, the people already there discovered it centuries ago. That's why protests exploded in Albania. Not just because of the development, because of what the development represents. Outsider elites, political access, foreign money, government favoritism, loss of public control. That's what people are reacting to over in Albania. Then reports come out about security fencing blocking local access to the nearby coastal areas. I guess they must have been on the beach or whatever. I'm not really sure about what this island entails. So videos started circulating about the island. Activists clashing with the guards, national outrage, and eventually thousands flooded the streets of Tirana demanding answers from Prime Minister Rama's government. Now here's where things get serious about it, because Albania's anti-corruption agency, SPAK, SPAK, Special Anti-Corruption Structure, officially opened an inquiry into whether environmental protections and legal frameworks were manipulated behind closed doors, specifically to facilitate this Kushner project. That matters because now we're not just talking about public anger, we're talking about criminal investigation. And this is where Kushner's defenders run into a problem, because Albania is not an isolated case. This has happened before. Now we move on to Serbia. And this is where the pattern becomes impossible. The Kushner pattern becomes impossible because Kushner pursued another highly controversial luxury redevelopment project there in Serbia too. This time attached to the former Yugoslavian Minister of Defense and the General Staff headquarters in central Belgrade, and an architectural site heavily damaged during NATO bombings. A culturally significant landmark he wanted to buy, a symbol of war memory for many Serbians. What happened? Political cooperation, government assistance, extraordinary lease terms, luxury redevelopment plans, a $500 million Trump-branded luxury hotel and residential complex. These were the terms that Jared Kushner could get if he developed in Serbia. And look at the jaw-dropping terms. The Serbian government, under that president, agreed to hand Kushner's firm a 99-year lease on this historic land at zero cost, while demanding the state completely strip the site of its cultural heritage protection status. Again, the same pattern, the same type of controversy, same accusations about public assets being handed to politically connected foreign elites like Jared Kushner. And this is where it completely blew up because Serbia had cultural protection laws standing in the way. According to organized crime prosecutors, officials went so far as to allegedly fabricate and forge documentation to illegally strip the building of its protected monumental status. Think about how insane that is. A historically protected national landmark allegedly had its protections fraudulently stripped away so politically connected developers like Jared Kushner could break ground. That's not normal business, that's political influence. That's exactly why watchdog groups like Transparency Serbia called it a dangerous form of corruption, where rules are tailored entirely to fit hidden elite interests. Then the scandal intensified. Arrests, indictments, corruption charges against the officials in Serbia. And once those prosecutors came in, Jared Kushner announced they were withdrawing from Belgrade Project and stepping aside. Because this is the key question right here, right? Why do these projects that Jared Kushner start keep attracting controversy, legal investigations, public outrage, allegations of government favoritism? Why? Because if it was just one story, maybe you could dismiss it. But Albania and Serbia, back to back, same theme, same pattern, same political relationships. That's why people stop believing coincidences and explanations from this Trump administration. Now let's move into the Middle East because this is where the money machine enters the picture. Affinity Partners, run by Jared Kushner, founded right at the start of 2021. Only 5 months after Kushner left his job as the White House senior advisor. Now, where did the capital come from? Where did his capital come from? Saudi Arabia, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Gulf sovereign wealthy money. And the Saudi connection is what really makes critics uncomfortable about this. Because during the Trump administration, Kushner was deeply involved in Middle East diplomacy, forming an incredible tight relationship with the Saudi leadership. Then afterward, Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, the PIF, committed a staggering $2 billion to Kushner's firm, to his company. $2 billion. And here's the kicker in the pants. The U.S. Senate Finance Committee investigation exposed the Saudis' Public Investment Fund, internal 4-member corporate investment committee explicitly voted against investing with Kushner. They formally stated that his management team was inexperienced, that their operations were unsatisfactory in all aspects, and that the fees were excessive. But the Crown Prince, what's his name, MBS, he personally stepped in, overruled his own financial experts, and handed Kushner $2 billion anyway. Now you have to understand why that looks bad politically, because ordinary people hear that and immediately think, wait a minute, the same foreign governments he dealt with politically are now financing and bankrolling his private investment empire, Kushner's private investment empire. That's the perception issue. And perception matters in this government that has ethics. Even if nothing illegal happened, Americans are still allowed to ask, why does this look so bad? Because this is exactly why public trust keeps collapsing. By the end of 2024, congressional investigations revealed that Affinity Partners, Kushner's company, had collected roughly $157 million in pure management fees from foreign investors, including $87 million paid directly by the Saudi government, all while generating zero return on investment for its clients and failing to deploy the vast majority of that capital. That's wild. Think about the math though, because Kushner is the sole owner of Affinity. Sole owner. He pulls in tens of millions of dollars a year just for holding the money. Regular people believe there's an elite global networking system ordinary citizens can never access. And honestly, stories like this reinforce that belief. You can't tell struggling Americans, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, while politically connected families move billions of dollars across international power circles like they're ordering Uber Eats. Let me play this video from Congress.
Let's talk about naked, open, brazen corruption. The Trump administration is guided and shaped by it, emboldened by what they can get away with, while the American taxpayer watches their own hard-earned paycheck siphoned away by ever-growing gas prices, groceries, rent, and healthcare. All the while, Donald Trump flaunts his White House ballroom and D.C. arch with displays of nauseating corruption for his billionaire buddies in broad daylight. Take Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law, a man with no meaningful political, diplomatic, or civil service experience who was handed sweeping authority during the first Trump administration over Middle East policy and sent across the world to represent the United States. At the same time, his family's real estate empire in New York was in trouble after years of mismanagement and actively seeking foreign investment. Ladies and gentlemen, he sure found it. Kushner was shaping U.S. foreign policy while simultaneously building relationships with foreign leaders that would later become financially valuable to him, personally. He was acting as a diplomat for himself at the expense of America's interests abroad and our national security. Kushner communicated directly with wealthy, high-ranking officials like Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, using unsecured and unauthorized channels like WhatsApp, with limited or no transparency and record keeping regarding these official and ethically dubious conversations. Nothing has changed since the first Trump administration. In fact, it has only gotten worse. They no longer even pretend to hide it. While Kushner and Trump ally and billionaire friend Steve Witkoff meet with Gulf countries about matters pertaining to U.S. national security, they are also directly involved with selling massive billion-dollar deals to friends and family of the president. It's the largest corruption scandal ever seen in the United States, leading back directly to Donald Trump, members of his family, and top administration officials.
We're not blind. We're not blind. Kushner reportedly remains active in back-channel discussions involving Middle East diplomacy and negotiations despite these massive overlapping financial conflict of interest relationships. Again, you don't have to scream criminal conspiracy. You just have to acknowledge how dangerous these optics are. And this is the broader issue America keeps avoiding. We have normalized this political dynasty that monetizes their influence. That's what this really is. Influence monetization. And both parties have versions of it. I get it. But because Trump sold himself as the anti-corruption outsider who would drain the swamp, stories like this hit especially hard because critics look at it this way. You didn't drain the swamp, you privatized the swamp. That's the criticism. Now let's talk about what this does psychologically to the public, because this is just not about one family. This destroys trust in institutions themselves. People stop believing the system is fair. People stop believing ordinary citizens matter. People start believing government exists mainly as a networking platform for these rich people. And once citizens lose that belief, democracy itself starts to weaken because the cynicism is going to spread. Hopelessness is going to spread. Distrust and the honesty. Can you even blame people anymore? You're watching billionaires discover islands. Okay. You're watching billionaires discover islands while you're trying to survive inflation. You're watching political insiders collect billions while fighting insurance companies over medical bills. You're watching governments rewrite laws for wealthy developers while regular people can't get basic problems solved. Of course, people become cynical. The scary part is a lot of Americans now expect this behavior. That's how normalized elite influencers the culture. Okay? People barely even react anymore when this former government insiders suddenly become international investment power brokers. That should alarm everybody because at some point corruption is not hiding itself anymore. It's becoming branding. It's becoming normal.
Kushner is a private citizen.
Hold on. Let me tell you this last video.
Subject to the rules and regulations of actual public servants, including background checks and requirements for security clearance, negotiating America's foreign policy and matters of literal war and peace between the United States and Iran, some of the most consequential negotiations of the 21st century. Meanwhile, new reporting from the New York Times shows that Kushner is simultaneously soliciting $5 billion in new investment from the very same foreign governments with a direct stake in these negotiations. It would be too outlandish for a movie script, yet this is the reality in America today. An elite ruling class which makes policy decisions based on how it will affect their personal bottom line and using taxpayer-funded government to get rich at our expense. I mean, Trump is literally suing the IRS, which he controls, for $10 billion. Money straight from the taxpayers into his own pocket. But there is hope. All across the world, people are organizing and uniting against corrupt leaders who view government as a tool to enrich themselves and their friends. In Hungary, after 16 years of democratic backsliding and a state molded into a piggy bank for the elite, a broad coalition defeated Viktor Orban, despite him literally doing everything he could to rig the system in his own favor. Hungary shows us that there is a path forward. Follow the money, take no vote for granted, and make corruption shameful again. When Democrats take back the House in November.
So, and what's happening in Albania? What's happening in Albania right now matters because people there are finally pushing back publicly against this entire global elite model. That's why those protests are very important. This is not just anti-tourism. This is citizens saying our country is not your investment toy. That's the real message that they're trying to send to the Kushners of the world. And I see a lot of people around the world are starting to feel the exactly same way, right? It's like this is your playground, but other people live here. You just can't do and say and buy whatever you all want to. So Kushner is enriching himself through his global ties, through the president's ties. People are just giving him money, giving him island, giving him access without having any kind of experience before 2021. What did he do? What was so amazing that he would be afforded billions of dollars in money for investment after starting his company in 2021? The company has only been up and running in the last 5 years. What has this man done that would afford him to get billions of dollars? He's only been given this access because he's the president's son-in-law. That doesn't mean that he is business savvy or anything else, because he would have been more successful before this, before he started this affinity partnership. Why wasn't he a businessman like that, a billion-dollar businessman before that? So they're taking advantage of the access to the president to make billions and billions of dollars. And the conflict of interest, be damned. They don't care about the conflict of interest. All they care about is making as much money as they can while this president is president. Okay? And Jared Kushner, I'm going to look into him again. I'm going to see what did he do before he became the president. What did he do before they got into the White House? What was his specialty? Was he an elite businessman then? or did he just become an elite businessman when President Trump got in office, right after the president left the office? But he used his influence and he used his relationship to get all of this access. So let's see exactly what's going on. But I know for a fact that Albanian people are not having them coming and invading that private island and disrupting that ecosystem that's going on there. People just don't like it, and they're letting people know that they don't like it. So if you like my commentary, please like, share, and subscribe. I'm here every Monday through Thursday at 10 p.m. with whatever story I might come across or like. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next video, which will be tomorrow. And who knows what that subject will be. This was an interesting subject about Jared Kushner. I don't know where this $1 billion investment will take him, but he wasn't on the scene like that before President Trump became president. So let's see where all of this money grab goes for this family. And I'll see you in the next video, guys. I'll definitely see you in the next video.